Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Let the conversation begin. This is Let's Talk with your host, Carl Lee.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Lee, and I'm your host of Let's Talk. Let's Talk is a deep dive into sports, culture, social issues, and how they connect and shape today's society. Today, I have a former assistant coach of mine, Brian Reed, and Brian, I'm gonna have you give yourself a short introduction, but give us all the good stuff. We don't worry about the bad stuff. We want all the good stuff. So give us a little bit of an introduction about your good stuff.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, Coach, and real big fan of the show. I think you and Hollis and your other guests have been doing a wonderful job. It's an honor for me to be here. I am a West Virginia native, born and raised right here on the west side of Charleston. Went to Capital High, played under Roger Jefferson, 1991, 93. Went 13-0 junior year, won a state championship. My senior year, we made it to the semifinals, and we did lose to DuPont in the semifinals after prevailing during the regular season. But they had a guy named Randy Moss who caused us fits in the second half of the semifinals my senior year, so we lost my second state championship. Walked on to Marshall, had an opportunity to earn a scholarship there. Went as a defensive lineman due to injuries on offense. I was asked to move over. And I ended up staying on the offensive line, started at right guard for 3 years. Was ultimately a team captain, won a national championship, 15-0 there. And just had a wonderful time, a wonderful experience for a guy from Charleston to see and meet some of the people I got to meet along the way.
All right, sounds good. And then we've got Hollis Lewis, my co-host. He's here. And so go ahead and say hello, Hollis, because before we get to fighting.
I think we're going to be pretty good on this subject because we're talking about what it takes to be a great player, what it takes to be a dog, a leader, those type of attributes. And just what I want to say is this: I think sometimes, particularly in our community, we get so caught up in whether we agree with somebody or not in totality of their position on a particular subject or not, that we sort of invalidate everything else that they've done. And this is not necessarily me defending you, Coach Lee. You don't need me to defend you. But I think people get caught up in maybe your coaching philosophy or your philosophy on this and that, and they tend to miss out on you were a great football player. Brian Reed, a great football player to walk on at Marshall and do the things you did. To Coach Lee, to come from being under-recruited, undersized, and all the naysayers to having a 13-year NFL career. And you're probably maybe, 1 or 2 Pro Bowls away from being a Hall of Fame football player, at the highest level. So I think that we cannot, although we may disagree with somebody, there's still jewels to be picked up from that person's journey, particularly if they are very successful in their field or endeavor. So, I mean, and again, before you go, I just want to, what is somebody who played at the highest level? Your season is over in January. Your season picks up, let's just say it picks up in August. What does that off-season training program, for those who want to know, for those kids out there watching, for those parents who are trying to get their kids prepped, what does an off-season training program look like for somebody who's preparing to be a Pro Bowl player?
All right, well, I was not expecting that as.
But I'm saying you're talking about dogs, you know what I'm saying, and great players, because that's where it starts, I think.
Okay, well let me. I'll say this: I spent my training, off-season training, was 16 weeks for 4 weeks of camp. That was enough for me to get through.
And what does that 16 weeks look like?
5 days a week, 5:45 in the morning. Up at South Charleston High School, on the track, running quarters. The quarters, the 200s, the 110s.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, I'd be running high school hill. Anybody who's ever drove up that hill,
yeah,
that's a 5 up and down trip that's going to happen every day. And
so you going up and down
I'm going
5 times?
up the hill, walking down, back up the hill. That would be my Tuesday. That would be my Tuesday workout.
And this is in high school.
This is it. Look, I started working for Sunday in high school. I started working. I didn't work toward college. I was working. I never went out to run, to lift for anything but Sunday. Marshall, and I said this publicly in a news article that did not sound very good. I was only at Marshall for 4 years to go pro.
And what about you? That's the running, that's the cardiovascular, that's the speed training. What about the weightlifting and calisthenics, different things? What did that look like for you?
Back in that day, I have a bench. My dad bought me a bench and some weights. You and Brian, I'm sure you might be able to remember this. It's plastic around it, concrete inside.
Yeah,
So if you drop
it,
if you drop them, that cracks.
Yeah.
Okay. My dad went out and bought me a set of weights. Probably the whole set probably was about maybe 200 and some pounds. Mm-hmm. You know, but I was a 365 pound max guy at 180 some pounds.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's double your weight.
You know, so I put that time in, and
just one more quick. I know you about to go because I got one more question.
Okay.
So in addition, that's the physical side of it. You gave us a half of the perspective. Like I said, you looking for Sunday in 9th grade and 10th grade. You already looking at Sunday. So when you had those naysayers, when you had those haters, oh, Carl, you need to get the backup plan. Oh, man, I don't know if you're going to make it. You too small, you too slow. Woo, woo, woo. What was the mindset when you faced that sort of adversity?
My dad never said I was not going to make it. My dad never said, and my dad wasn't a school guy.
Yeah.
He was a worker. Mm-hmm. So he believed if you work, you can get what you want. So I bought into that. My mom, on the other hand, she tried to make the case, I needed school. And I understood it, but I was the guy who's saying, man, if I do too well in school, I might slip up and not want to run when it's cold, when it's raining. Because I didn't stop running when it was cold. I didn't stop running just because it rained. I'm still running. That's just what it was. So I didn't have. I don't think I ever had a thought that I was not going to make it. And
that's unique.
Well,
I've had the good fortune of knowing a lot of guys that went to the NFL, and God knows over the 2 years you and I have worked together, I've picked your brain in one-offs, and this came up with you and I. And I remember you telling me you in high school, you already had visions of playing in the NFL. That's, to me, that's a man beyond his years with the utmost confidence and vision and goals, and the level of maturity you must have been at. You probably didn't. But I would argue you probably didn't get in a lot of trouble. That kept you focused. That gave you guardrails. That gave you lanes.
I had no options.
I like that.
I had no options. Those guardrails were my mom.
Yeah.
She's chief of the police.
Yeah. So I didn't have, those guardrails were shiny and bright and fully aware that do something. Mm-hmm. I remember my mom coming to school when I was tripping in school at high school now. Mm-hmm. She comes to high school and goes not to the principal. Mm-hmm. She goes to the coach because she knows where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And she says, look, you want him to play? These grades better get better. Without him, nothing. Mm-hmm. He will do nothing. And I knew she wasn't joking. But I had the ability to watch her fight to become the first black officer for the city of Charleston. I seen her fight to become the first chief of police in Dunbar. So I got a chance to witness somebody who was willing to work hard, and get and provide for the family the way that my mom and dad did. Mm-hmm. So to me, I didn't want another option. Mm-hmm. I wanted what I wanted. And
you was willing to grind.
And I was
for it.
willing to grind for it.
Yeah. Okay. Same sort of question to you. Being to Mr. Reed, being a walk-on, that means you're not getting a scholarship. You're not getting the looks. Being a walk-on, going from walk-on to scholarship to championship player. Describe the mentality and the work ethic.
At the time, it was just, you know, a lot of my blessings was, you know, being naive, thinking, you know, if one man can do it, any man can do it. I always felt that. I did my homework. My senior year, I was not invited. I was not recruited by Marshall, but I went to some games with some guys from my school that were being recruited. I'd get the what's it called? The book
Program.
Yeah. And I would go through every starting lineman because my bugaboo was my height, where I was just a little bit barely, you know, a little bit over 6'1". I was considered a runt, too small, too short. And I mean, I remember I knew guys before I knew them, like Phil Ratliff, Trevor Thomas, the center. I mean, these were guys that were all 6'2.5" or less that were playing for Marshall and making serious contributions. So being naive, I thought if they can do it, I can do it. And I didn't come from a family with a lot of means. We didn't have money saved for scholarship. And my father was not a fan of really sports or anything. He just wanted me to be a good person and stay out of trouble. But he wasn't really concerned with sports. He thought it was foolish of me to turn down partial scholarships, from the Division II schools and just go enjoy that. But I just knew there was something that I had. If I didn't try it, that I'd never be able to live myself. And Mom found a way to get some credit cards opened, and I made it abundantly clear to my position coach as well as Coach Donnan. I said, I've got 1 year. I'm gonna give you everything I got. And after 1 year, if it's enough, I hope I can vie for a scholarship. If not, I got to go.
No, this is a walk on who's not even on their radar telling them this, right?
Yeah. And I had to grow up quick at 18 because at the end of that year, fall went through, and I didn't know it at the time, but they had called and told my parents that asked permission to redshirt me, and I was so green I didn't even know what red shirt meant, but they did redshirt me, and I was one of 10 invited walk-ons, and I think I was the only invited walk-on and maybe got redshirted, and then went through spring, and I mean, as tough as it was physically, because trust me, football at that level is very tough physically, but the mental, I remember after practice where I was a walk-on, I couldn't go upstairs and have dinner with the team because I didn't have a meal card. So I had to go home and eat those noodles and
ramen
everything
noodles,
else.
peanut butter and
ramen
jelly.
noodles and-
Anybody going to college knows about it.
Thank goodness, for my girlfriend at the time who went on to become my wife, and she did a good job of helping me through that year and making sure I was able to. That was the hard part, was keeping weight on. But after that spring, you go into summer, you get your summer job. Next thing you know, it's time to report, and so. And now it was a silence deal. There's been no formal scholarship offer. I know I've removed all doubt as far as what I've done as an 18-year-old freshman, what I'm going to be able to do when I'm a redshirt freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. But it was time to start, and I'd never missed a practice. And I'm always usually 20, 30 minutes early to everything. And it was the first day of practice, and the guys the coaches were asking, "Where's Reed?" And somebody said, "Well, last I saw him, he was loading his bags, and he was sitting out waiting on his mom, and in front of towers." And some of the coaches came over, and they were like, "What's going on?" And I told them, I said, "I'm sorry, guys, I made it abundantly clear. I'm here. I don't have a place to sleep tonight because the registrar's office is sending my parents the bills for the rooms and everything in books, and I can't, I just don't have it right now." And they said, "Well, Jim or Coach Donnan wants to talk to you." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, my mom's on her way, and I got to go." And they said, just go over there, and went over to talk to him. And that was the toughest thing to do because that guy's like a CEO of a corporation, compared to Coach Pruitt, who's a player's coach and always has Jim was, a little bit.
He slick back hair. He seemed like I could see that.
Yeah.
He was always cool and dressed sharp and all that.
I was 18, 19 years old, and he's saying, why everybody's out there practicing? He goes, how come you're late for practice? I said, Coach, I'm not on the team no more. He goes, what do you mean you're not on the team? I said, I can't. I got to go. I don't have a scholarship. They're asking my mom to pay the bills, and I've told her not to pay them. And I said, Coach, I gave you everything I got. And I said, I'm confident I can play here. I want to play here. I was like, but it's just a matter of scholarship now. And he goes, well, he said, I've called your mom, told her to turn around. We're going to put you on scholarship.
Wow.
You owe me for being late.
You still got paid that day.
I was ready to go out and practice right now. And he goes, just wait till the second practice. We had 2 days back in, and they made me run in between practices to make up for the miss, and then, picked right up. And, it was, I had to grow up quick when it came to, finding a way to stay with my brothers and my family. But it was the best thing ever.
And I think, and Hollis, I truly, truly appreciate you like starting that conversation out, because I think where you were heading, was, there's no reason to hate success, basically.
It's just like I said, we can disagree and still find the silver lining in a person. And that's what in our community sometimes it's just like it's one way.
But in that what you and I hate to give him any kind of compliment.
You gotta give me some credit now. Come on,
I hate to give him any kind of compliment.
Hey, he gotta give me some love.
I hate
you
that I gotta give him some love, but I'm gonna give you a little bit. In the way in which you did it, you created a situation to where myself and Reed, we had to tell our story, which inside of that story is the work.
The work.
And part of the issue, and I'll make this case forever, the reason why a lot of our kids don't make it, it's not because they don't have something inside them to make it. And again, you don't always have to have the size. The metrics is important. You got to be this tall. You got to be this long. You got to do all these kind of things.
Yeah, you got to be within the range.
You got to be within the range. But if you're not in that range, you got to be Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
Because if you think you're going to be 5'8", 5'9", and be a running back in the NFL, you might as well forget it unless you that dude.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you're that dude, you know it. If you're a Randy Moss, you know it. But if you're a Brian Reed, Carl Lee, you don't know it. Nobody can see you being that guy.
Or they don't know it.
They don't know.
They don't know it.
They don't know it. All we know is where we're trying to go.
Yeah.
And we're putting in that time. And I've always said, I don't care what you say about me, but you can't take what I've accomplished away from me.
Yeah.
You just can't.
And I think these conversations are important because in order to be a great player, in order to be a good player, in order to be a Division I player, I think sometimes we talk about a lot of different things, but people don't talk about the mentality that it takes and the perspective that it takes, and obviously they don't talk about really the grind. Because like you said, to get up at 5:45, 5 days a week from ninth grade all the way probably till you retire from the NFL, that takes something else. That's a different sort of drive, and that's a different sort of fire inside of you. To be a walk-on, mom's taking out credit cards, and to really have to fight, because a red shirt sucks. It sucks being a walk-on. It sucks being a red shirt because you go on scout team and you getting dogged.
Right. And
every day.
And even toward Reed's reality is the common denominator between us is believing in what you do.
Yes.
Believing that you could play there. Because here's the issue. When you get a job, right? When you get a job and you get settled with your job, somebody like me, somebody like Reed, we're looking to get your job.
Yeah.
And I've said several times on the show before, there was a guy from the University of Miami, 3rd round draft pick. I'm a 6th pick, 7th round, when it was 13 or 12 or 13 rounds. So I'm not even a guy who's supposed to make it.
Yeah.
But I spotted him and he wasn't working. I knew he wasn't putting time in. He was comfortable. Oh, I'm going after you. I'm getting your job. I got that job.
And that word right there is so much bigger than people could ever understand is comfort. You can't ever be comfortable in competitive sport, competitive football, especially, as you get to the higher levels. Comfort is not your friend, and if you're seeking it, you're looking for something soft, and somebody will yank your spot. There's no such thing as comfort. It's you have to learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, and that's a life skill that you carry on in life that'll help you so much in all aspects of life and business and everything. Is your ability to be comfortable with uncomfortable situations, and that's college football, that's pro football, and I think another operative word is fear. We don't like to talk about it, but listen, if I really had to peel it back and be hypnotized and honest, I feared losing. I feared being inferior, and it drove me to weight rooms, to meetings, to watch film on my own, to study on my own. If my wife was here, she'd tell you I'd break broomsticks in half and make her hold them as extended appendages because the guys I had to block were 6'5", 6'6", so they had an arm length on me. And so I'd make her come at me with these extended arms of hers, and I would practice and teach myself a technique how to overcome the lack of reach. And it was all due to I had a fear of getting beat. I had a fear of losing. I had a fear of just losing.
So you turned that fear into some fire. You turned that fear around.
Into fight.
It's a fear into fight.
It's fight or flight.
All right.
And
flight's not an option.
Right. And when you start talking about I've heard people say, he ain't all that, or he's okay. He was an okay guy. I can't give you that. I can't give you
talk
that.
Your talk,
no,
Coach.
bro. I can't. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't give you that because I was okay at best in youth football. At best, I was okay in old junior high. I was just good enough in high school to play at Marshall. That was not the Marshall that Reed was on. But when I got to Sunday, by the time I got to Sunday, I was hungry. I'm walking around like a stalker looking for somebody to cut up because I want to stay here. I want to make that roster, and I don't care. We could be buddies, talking, being friends, but bro, I'm taking your job. I got to be that guy that's going to be that. Whatever the number was, if it's 55, 60, whatever that number is, I want to be. If I can be 60, I'm happy. Because once I get 60, I'm going after the 11.
60 would
the 60 would be the roster.
Okay, just to clarify.
Yeah, 60 would be the roster. If I can get to 60, I'm going down to 11. I'm looking for one of the dudes in the 11.
So you go from 60. Okay,
I'm going to 11,
like that.
And then once I go to 11, I'm going to 2.
I've used this analogy. In business, I spent my first 20-some years out of college working either in pharmaceuticals or medical sales, and in both of those businesses and a lot of Fortune 500 companies, they always talk about the 80-20 rule. 80% of your success comes from 20% of your customers. Well, that carries over into football when you think about it. The 80-20 rule, if you got 100 guys on your team, those 22 players, roughly 20% of your team is responsible for either 80% of your wins or 80% of your losses. And so if you're not part of that 20%, that if you're on a team and like you said, I got to be on the team, but now you narrowed it down to that top 20%, and then you narrowed it down to the top 1%.
Yeah. And
that is what we need to be teaching kids that are in high school, that are pursuing post-high school experience playing college football, whether it's D1, D2, whatever. But it's about, being at the party. That's not the be-all, end-all.
Right.
It's I couldn't imagine going through 5 years of college football and not being a top 20% or a contributor on the team and being on the sidelines. That would be a prison experience.
I was going to speak to that part.
Okay, well, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Contact Carl Lee on email, letstalkcarllee@gmail.com, or text 409-422-7539.
You're listening to Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Email letstalk@promessage.com or call 304-342-8131. For more information, visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Lee, and we're back at Let's Talk. And Hollis Lewis, my co-host, has come in today with a host of I don't even know if I want to call them questions, but I'm not. I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah.
Okay, and see, just to find out where did this come from? Because you had hit me up earlier today and said, Coach, I want to open the show. And I'm like, okay, but wait a minute, I got to do the Carl Lee Let's Talk piece, So I that's why I gave Reed the first introduction so that I could let you take it. Where is this? I know you don't. It sounds personal to me. Okay,
it's beyond. Everything's personal.
Okay, I get you.
No,
because here's the thing. What I know. I know what's happening on Facebook. I don't have Facebook, but I know what's happening on Facebook. I know that, there are people who see me in a way that you don't see me.
Yeah.
The way Reed doesn't see me. And they make that, they verbalize that.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, to your very, very valid point, in most cases, I've never spent any time with them.
Yeah.
They've either heard something about me from somebody else. I am only cocky. If you want to use that word, I'm only cocky if you try to take something from me.
Yeah.
I refuse to. I work too hard. Did nobody get up with me in the mornings but me?
And that's the point I wanted to highlight, because and it's not necessarily just from Facebook, but an observational point from our community in a whole. And
when you say in our community,
I'm saying like the black community.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that.
And I've seen this like in politics. I've seen this you see this in sports. You see this in music, entertainment, even business and law. I think sometimes when we don't agree with somebody, when we're on the opposite ends of the fences, we take that and then we try to I ain't gonna say try to discredit, but we invalidate everything they did. When you have somebody who's accomplished, when you have somebody who's done big things in their life, you may come to a point where when you disagree with that person about strategy or we should do this or do that. But what you can't do, you can't invalidate the successes that they had. You can't turn around and act like that didn't exist. You can't turn around and act like you can't glean or you can't learn something from that. My dad always taught me, he was like, man, you talk to a bum on the street, they might teach you something. He never tried to, he put it in my head to not invalidate anybody. Although they may not be where they were, they could drop a jewel on you, or they can teach you a lesson that can be applicable to your life and you can be successful with that lesson in a way that they can't. So I think sometimes just because we disagree with somebody doesn't mean that we can't learn something.
And I'm going to use this name. I'm going to use this name on air because I think this is an example of an individual who I think potentially could be one of the best young men that deals with youth sports, and has been doing it literally his whole entire life. Since I've known him, he's been doing it. Sean Forte, better known as Cuddy.
Yeah, he's excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent. Okay. Me and him, we did not get off. We didn't get off on the right foot, right?
Yeah.
I was in charge of Shawnee, basketball stuff, all that kind of stuff. He was running the league and all that stuff. I had to shut him down. So he had no reason to like me.
Yeah.
I didn't know him. It wasn't personal. But over the time, we've been cool and we've been maybe on the edge. Mm-hmm. But what I know about him, I respect.
Yeah.
I give him that. If somebody said, who do you think is the most responsible person for kids, who advocate for kids? If I live in Dunbar, I need him to touch my kid.
100%.
Because that's just who he is. Okay? And I don't care. I don't even care if he likes me. You know what I'm saying? That's who I see him as. He may dislike me for whatever the reasons are, whatever somebody else has said, whatever somebody else feels, but I respect him because of the work that he does.
Yeah.
You know, and that's to me, that's one of those examples of where he and I could really do work.
Yeah.
You know, we could do some work. You know, we probably can't, we probably won't, because it's just a divide there that unfortunately I don't know if we can't get past that. But that's a bad thing though to me.
Yeah, and I think we see it play out on a national level. You see it with Deion. I mean, as much as you may chagrin his antics and his swagger and his confidence, what you can't deny is that he has an effect on kids or grown young men that a lot of coaches can't have. What you can't deny is he's been a winner at all levels. So I just want to say that, like, look, man, you ain't got to like the conversation. You don't have to like the personalities. You don't have to like the points of view. But don't try to discredit everything just because that's where you hung up at. So that's the point.
Yeah, yeah.
And to your point, what you was talking about, we talking about what it takes to be a great player, what it takes to be a dog. I can give you an example of what it takes to be a lackluster player, because that's what I was, right? And I think for me, I fit the metrics, right? Mm-hmm. I had the metrics. I had, as far as a quarterback standpoint, I'm 6'3", I'm 220, I'm lean, I got a cannon for an arm. I have the ability to, I have the smarts, I can think through things. However, what I totally lacked was the perspective and the work ethic. And I think that at some point, your talent and your metric and your ability can take you so far, but at some point you're gonna have to put the work on it. So there's a point where, again, you can learn from my situation, like you can learn from Coach Reed and Coach Lee's situation, where at some point you're gonna have to put and you're gonna have to get that dog mentality where everything becomes a competition, which I think I lacked as well.
Okay, so again, I'm gonna go and Reed, I'm gonna ask this question to you. If you can define this. When we talk about a dog and then we talk about a great player, is there a difference? Because I personally think that there's a difference, but I'll give my reasoning after I hear from both of you. But Reed, what do you consider yourself a great player, or would you consider yourself a dog? And I know, and I know it sounds hard when you say, "Am I a great player?" You know, I know that sounds. But if you're on a championship team
and you're starting,
lineman, you probably great in my mind.
Yeah.
Did you have a chip on your shoulder when you played?
I mean, I've always felt like, you know, I was discounted, and again, that played to my favor because I jokingly, but a lot of times, you know, once I got that scholarship, I can't tell you how much it meant to me personally. I can't tell you what it meant to me spiritually to know that burden was lifted off my mother and father. But I also played like it was renewed every week based off of how I went to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's dog right there.
You have to understand.
We already answered it for you, but go ahead.
I mean, my right tackles, you know, where I got to start for 3 years, I had, you know, in 95 and 96, my right tackle was 6'6", 300 pounds. Ended up playing for the Panthers for a few years. Then had a neck injury there, recovered from. Jamie Wilson. My center for all 3 years was John Wade. He was 6'6", about 305, and could really move. He played in the league for 12 years. I think 11 of them started at center. Left guard, you know, Aaron Ferguson was an all-everything. Started as a true freshman from Tennessee. Probably should have played at the University of Tennessee, one of the most talented linemen I've ever come across.
You live here now, right?
Yeah, Spring Valley.
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron, you know, but Aaron was, you know, about 6'3", true 6'3", about 290, and could stand flat-footed underneath the basketball rim and slam it. I mean, just very, very athletic. And then the left tackle, 6'6", 300 and some pounds. But my backups for the 3 years that I started averaged, you know, 6'6", about 360, and 6'7", about 350. So I had big boys behind me that were waiting to play, and so I made sure that they knew every day they had to come to work, and they were going to have to do more than than what most would have to do to take my job. I didn't take days off. It was I played hurt. I never missed a game due to injury. I got pulled out of a game once or twice due to injury, but the dog type deal, you know, it's easy to talk about, but when you're on a team of alpha men, sigma men, you know,
Omega men.
yeah, Omega men. I mean, it's known, you know, just like in a pack of dogs. I mean, everybody knows who the dogs are, and not everybody has to be the top dog, but your brother has to know that if his back's turned, you got it, and you're there. And you know, the funny thing is that first year I walked on, the first 4 weeks as a walk on, you know, back then we were allowed a week of freshman only camp, and then 2 weeks of two-a-days where the varsity came in.
Yeah.
For those 3 weeks plus probably another week or two, I had about 0 friends because you spend a lot of times in T-shirts and helmets. But I had made a promise myself as a walk-on, I'm taking every rep full go. I can't afford to lose a rep, whether it be in T-shirts and helmet or in pads, because if I lose, in my mind, if I lose a rep, I'm just that walk-on they thought I was.
That's the nuance I was trying to get to.
And
the every rep.
They hate. I mean, my teammates that I went against, they called me Johnny Full Speed. You know, ha. It's anybody can
Johnny
win.
Full Speed.
Anybody can win in T-shirts and helmets. I just know one speed, guys, and I know, and believe it or not, we talked about the value of coaching. When I can say this without a shadow of a doubt, as far as the defensive lineman goes, and I you know, I was a 3 technique pass rush guy. I like to get after the quarterback. I was easily, per my own review of coach, I was a year to a year and a half ahead of the freshmen, because they brought in 6 defensive linemen that were on scholarship that same year I was a walk-on freshman. And you think I didn't watch everything they did? And I could tell from that first camp that lasted 3 weeks, you know, the things that I could tell they were learning, I'd already been doing for 2 or 3 years under Coach Jefferson and Coach Cummings at Capitol High. So, but like I said, you wish that you could, and it's hard to, to wrap words around what a dog is. And you and I spoke a little bit earlier before we got on the air. Mahomes for Kansas City, is he a dog? We don't ever really look at quarterbacks to be our quote unquote dog.
Yeah, he a dog.
But
so I'm gonna challenge you on that. But go ahead, Reed.
He's got an abundance of talent. He's fearless. He makes great decisions. He's prepared. I mean, you don't know what it takes to be a prepared quarterback, whether it be D1, D2, or God forbid the pros. I mean, these guys are so buttoned up.
See, I think Chelsea to me is the dog.
Kelsey, the tight end.
Yes, yes. I think he's the dog.
That could be more than one.
Oh yeah, there can be.
Yeah,
there can be.
Yeah.
But I think Mahomes is great.
Super great.
Yeah. He's like
phenomenal. He's the best thrower of the football ever in history.
In any way. Sidearm,
way.
underhand.
I tell people like this: he could throw it from noon to 5 o'clock.
Yes. Yes.
That's what he
and
can
seeing
do.
that to me, I say that's a skill set. That's a built-in skill set that he has that is just part of his excellence, his greatness. I think Kelsey he catching a ball when he's blocking and
but you got to be, to me, I think a lot of quarterbacks can probably do that at an adequate level. But no, I'm saying just at an adequate level.
Okay, I'm with you.
But to have the confidence to do it in game time, to have a confidence
to
practice it and throw a ball at 5 o'clock, and not only throw it at 5, but be accurate at 5.
What coach is actually going to allow you
We're
to
gonna
practice
allow
that?
you to do that.
They're not going to allow you to practice that because that's not right.
Literally rolling left,
Yes.
throwing all the way across field back right.
Yeah.
That's a cardinal sin.
It's cardinal sin, but yet he does it deadly and does it accurately.
But you can
know what I'm
also
saying?
identify these dogs per se. And again, most guys in the NFL have dog in them.
Yes, he is, buddy.
And they're and obviously some have more than others. But I always you could tell who's in it to win it and who's the guy you want on your team when they're hurt. And you saw that guy last year. You know, when he got hurt, it took everything in the world to get him off that field. And you know, I know for myself, if I could walk, I'm playing. You're going to have to carry me off this field.
I can't tell you. I started in and played in more games than any corner in Viking history. I'm not coming out. I've got pins in my wrist with a cast, and I'm playing bump and run, and it kills me every time that I put my hand on somebody. But I'm not coming out because I'm not giving you a chance to beat me out.
Yeah, and to answer your question, because you go ahead and you can ask me the question again. Because you asked Brian, you wanted us both to answer.
I didn't forgot what I was talking
We're
about.
talking about dog.
The dog versus great play.
I think that if me personally, I think I had the opportunity to be a great. I was never a dog. It's not my personality, but I had the opportunity to be a great player.
Okay.
I think that with a work ethic, because like you said, like I just mentioned, I had the metrics. I had all the tools. I was the lump of clay.
Well, we said a word earlier, comfort. Did you find the comfort?
Oh, I was comfort heaven, bro. So, but because I didn't. I think if I would have had that perspective, like that hunger, or the perspective, like I'm trying to get here, or the hunger, like I can't lose a rep. That I think that's just such a different mentality, and I didn't have that in college. But and you seen at my best, I was pretty good at my best.
Yeah,
but it wasn't consistent because I didn't work consistently.
Did you ever have to look over your shoulder, or were the
all the
coaches
time.
all about you?
I think
sometimes the coaches can be a little bit too, showing of gratitude.
But I think it was like up and down because I think, like I said, at my best, you seen them glimmers. You was like, man, he can do it, but it wasn't consistent.
And I think when a dude looks at you, and I've said this 1,000 times, when a dude looks at you, you're running conditioning. And a dude looks at you and says, "Hey man, just slow down. Just take it easy. Just we good." Bro, I ain't got nowhere to go.
And you fall for it. You do it.
Yes,
it's a difference. That's what I'm saying. It's a difference. And I was that guy. I was like, okay, we just going.
We chilling.
We gonna be competitors against us. But we ain't gonna go too hard. We gonna even this out. I think you can't be that way and be an elite or being a great football player.
And I think I think that kids in high school specifically have to know that there is no buddy deal.
There's no buddy deal.
You and somebody else is
we call
not
it brother-in-law.
Yeah,
we're not brother-in-law.
I like that. Y'all got some terms, brother-in-law.
Yeah, because me and you can be the best of friends.
Yeah,
but I want you to reach whatever dream you want, but not at my expense.
Exactly.
See, that was another thing
not at
for
my
me
expense.
That I wish high school guys. I know you tried really hard to get the huddle and everything to cover practices, but like I said, I was so green when I went to Marshall. Coach Pruitt says it's amazing the cows didn't eat me, but
the cows
it didn't take me long to figure out the eye in the sky don't miss much.
Nope.
And after every practice, we spent hours in individual meetings. D lines here, D ends here, linebackers here, safeties, corners here. Obviously, O line doing that. But when you watch individual meetings, I just remember how real that was, and like God forbid. You get beat and you're not giving your best effort, or you get talked into brother-in-law and
brother-in-law. I love that.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And it's just and if you're any type of competitor at once, if it happens once, that's one too often. But that's the difference in good teams and great teams. Is great teams, they push each other, they hold accountable to touching the line. Nobody's complaining about who's the rabbit, who's setting the pace. It's just get it done, come in under your time, get recovered in your rest period, and go to work. And, again, we're watching film, and these guys in these rooms are the people that mean the most to me, and I could not allow myself to put bad tape up. I just wouldn't do it.
And and going back to South Charleston, part of that problem was that guys, they believed in themselves enough in the wrong way that they didn't set the example in practice. They didn't set the example in the game. They didn't set the example of how to handle yourself to get to the next level. Skill is one thing, but your work ethic, who you are, what you say, how you act, all hurts you going to that next level.
But I think, and that's the thing.
They couldn't hear me.
Sometimes being skillful can hurt.
Yes.
Because like I said, if you, like for me, I'm a quarterback. I barely know how to throw the ball, but I can chuck it 50, 60, 70 yards down the field. And sometimes you think, well, that's enough, but you're not really cognizant of the nuances that need to take place. You need to throw it on the rope. You need to have the direct. You need to do all these things in order to be adequate that come with this work ethic.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When you look at Wayne Harris, okay, at Huntington, hated for him to go.
Oh, I did too.
Hated for him to go.
He's so good. You see the game?
The short time we had him,
Jesus
we had him, that guy practices the way you're supposed to practice, and he didn't have to be told how to practice.
No.
Okay.
The fact that his reality is showing up.
Yes, it
shows up.
I mean, the game against they played against GW. 3 picks. He had 1 for 95 yards, and you should have seen the diving catch. I was right in the end zone. He had made a diving catch.
Do you think it matters to him if somebody gets to say?
He's so good.
Do you think it matters to him? Because I know you know him. I know him.
Yeah. I know him in he's doing this to us in Little League.
But even since Little League, he's had this.
You see it.
This thing in him that says, if you're going to walk around town and say you beat me, you're going to earn it, because I'm not giving away no victory. You ain't going to make a living whooping me, and if you do it, you're going to beat me at my best, because I'm never going to allow for somebody to walk around and say, I beat Brian Reed on this play, or I beat Hollis Lewis on this play. That bothered me. I didn't want anybody to have that right.
Wayne ain't giving that up.
Wayne ain't going to let you.
That.
But I'm saying to some degree that's just in you.
Okay,
but let me ask a different question though. If to some degree that's in you, for the player who's equally as talented, how do you pour that into him?
I don't know if it's poured.
Well,
I don't know. I think you can pour it a little bit. I think you can pour it a little bit.
We're pouring it. It's osmosis. So, because it's
osmosis? Okay, speak on it.
Well, it will leak and seep into the players that are around him. I promise you.
Okay, let me ask you this though: is it through like a motivation, or is it through a challenge?
It's like them seeing the difference, and somebody who knows how to work. And that was one of my greatest blessings, whether I was at Capitol High or I was at Marshall, is I got to see the difference between good and great. And there's a great series of books on this, From Good to Great, where they studied a lot of top companies as well.
Is that what it's called, Good to Great?
Good to Great.
Check that out.
And the difference between good and great is about this much. And good is the enemy of great. You know why?
Absolutely.
They say that. I've heard that.
Good is the enemy of great because so many people work so hard to be anything but average. Okay? And then when you get to a spot, and it don't take a whole lot. Be 6'3", 220 pounds, lean, throw the ball 60 yards. Okay, that's not average. That's good.
No.
And people are going to tell you you're good.
Yeah.
But if you leave the ears open and you keep letting people tell you that you're good, and you keep thinking this is going to come easy, and everything, all these wonderful things people say about me is going to come to fruition just because I'm good. That is your enemy. Good is the enemy of great, because it only would have taken this much more.
And I'm telling you, and to that point, what I thought going to state, I was like, okay, I'm finally around some talent. So now everything that I couldn't do at high school, I'm be able to do now because I'm around talent. So I didn't look at it perspective like, well, I got to step me up. I just looked at it like, now I can be what I want to be, because I'm good and I'm around talent, but it don't work that way.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. That's the benefit that Wayne got going to Huntington, right? He got the benefit of him knowing himself what his skill set was,
and he elevated.
And he elevated it when he went there. Where everybody, he elevated them.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he didn't necessarily need them for winning per se.
Yeah.
What he needed them was to say, I can outplay anybody everywhere. See, because I wanted to be the best player at Marshall.
I played with a Wayne Harris when I was at Marshall. Tim Martin from Soddy Daisy, Tennessee. He's good friends with Randy. He and Randy was on the team for a year in '96.
Okay.
And Timmy built just like Wayne, but, and you want to talk about a dog? Timmy Martin was a dog. Timmy was a guy that the commentators used to, have fun with anytime teams would punt to us because it was rare you'd ever see him fair catch. He wanted to catch the punt. He didn't care if he got hit, but he knew that there was a greater opportunity if he caught the ball and ran than him doing this. And the dude, I saw him get his front tooth knocked out against Appalachian State and come run, and he come running off the sideline and smiling at me. And that tooth I was like, oh, I got cold shivers thinking about that exposed root and nerve. And all he did is when he ran past me, he said, they're hitting today, Reed. Next, took one play off, right back out. And in practice, in the weight room, when we ran, he did everything to win, and not just win, to dominate.
And see, that's what I think. It's a total thing.
And
it just can't be in the
like
field.
that,
it's just like everything you do is like
when you see guys prepare that way every day of the week, every rep.
Yeah,
you don't ask questions, and I'd be embarrassed to look up at Tim Martin and say, "Bro, can you slow it down? You're making the rest of us look bad." He'd have punched me in my face.
In high school, you knew not to say, coach. Coach say don't hit the quarterback. Blah 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 blah. Okay, that's fine. I can't hit him. Don't throw the ball though. Don't throw no post because I was playing safety. Don't throw no post.
You picking that? You got
I'm
that?
either picking that or I'm knocking his head off.
Yeah.
And you can't hit. And I've been told. No, don't hit you don't need to hit our team like that.
We talked about this before.
Yeah.
There's a good barometer of what a dog is. Because I've told you, if you're a dog, chances are, if you're a real dog, at some point, whether high school, college, or pro, they have to take you off the practice field in order to practice.
Is that a barometer? That's a good one. You got some good ones, Rick.
I'm telling you, if they got to take you off the field in order to conduct practice, you're a dog.
You're a dog?
Yeah.
I could not see, I could never understand, like, a teammate, when I'm on defense and you're on offense, your teammate in the locker room. Mm-hmm. If you run the ball, there's a buddy of mine named Gilbert Ord. We called him I-Dub. He always, when my junior, senior year, when some scouts were coming around, anytime we get into the scout, scout shows up, he wants to get into the DB tackling drill with the running back. You got 2 bags and you run straight forward. He wanted to get seen. Mm-hmm. On my watch.
You punished him.
This guy's coming from me. I know that. He wasn't even a starter.
Yeah.
And you're gonna run with me. You grabbing the ball from somebody's hand. Let me go against him. But you're not getting that.
See, that's what I'm saying.
You're not getting that.
It's a certain level of competitiveness that exists in good and great dog type players that is prevalent almost in every facet of what you do. Like you running a hill. I'm sure there's a lot of self-talk. Like you probably in 9th grade, 10th grade, you probably talking to that darn hill like, you ain't finna beat me today. You ain't finna whoop me today. I'm getting you.
I could not stop.
You couldn't stop. So I'm saying, so I think that when we talk about, I think these are the things we can pour into our youth and pour into our these kids now. That sort of thing. And if nothing else, just the stories and the mentality. Because oftentimes we'll tell somebody, I ran the hill. We'll tell somebody 5:30, but we don't get deep and we don't get into the self-talk about what you're saying to yourself to get you through that.
Because in most cases, there's no space to really, there's not really, like I didn't want to come into South Charleston High School and say, look, this is who I am.
But you got to say that.
And you know why?
But you got to say that.
You're right. And the mistake that I made is just because what I know about Dion, Okay, what I know about Deion,
he gonna tell you what it is.
Everybody knows what he did.
Everybody.
Not
and he gonna let you know.
He didn't even have to say it, but but he will let you know.
But he will let you know.
He will let you know. And his expectations is the expectations that he had on himself.
Because I think sometimes, and I think a lot of us are guilty of this, who have reached a certain level of success and come from a certain place, we get too humble. We get too humble in that we don't want to seem like we're braggadocious. We don't want to seem like and I ain't saying it like this, but you the white kid from the West Side back in the days playing for Western General. You know what that is. So you got to be tougher than everybody else. You the kid from the projects who made it all the way in doing the things I'm doing. You the kid from South Charleston who nobody believed in. So sometimes we get too humble about our own accomplishment where people don't even recognize what it is and what we've been through.
I got kids on our youth football team now. Ask me, like, who did I play for? They obviously they're young enough not to be. They weren't alive when I was playing. Their dads weren't even alive, but they'll ask me, that, and I'll just say yes. Who'd you play for? Play for the Vikings. How long did you play? 12 years. And
you gotta brag, coach.
I kind of leave that there.
No.
But I'll say this though. I do try not to walk with it.
You gotta walk with it.
But here's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But in most cases though, most people who see me who don't know me and see me walk by, they'll say, "Oh, you can tell that he thinks he's all that." I don't think I'm all that when you say it that way.
Yeah.
Okay?
But
it's hard for me. It's hard for me to judge it. Here's the question that you're asking me.
Wait a minute.
Okay, go ahead. Here's the question that I'm asking for you.
Okay.
How do you feel that you rank? How would you rank yourself as a Minnesota Viking defensive back of all the defensive backs that has come through there, that's there now? How do you rank yourself? I'm probably one of the best.
Exactly.
I have no argument or no hesitation in saying that.
But that's the thing I'm saying, that.
And I'm from 441 Greenway Avenue.
And that's the thing I'm saying, because sometimes when you walk around with that air of because people can feel confidence. Confidence exudes, like you saying, Coach Reed. It exudes. So when you walk around with confidence, but the context is missing. So, for example, and I'm just using him because this is who we all know, Deion. He walks around. You can tell on the TV it's beaming. He gives me confidence. It's beams, right?
Yeah. You want to play for him.
You want to play for him, right? So, but the thing is, he provides that. Plus, he has the context. So he'll tell you, look at my stats, do the boo. And I'm saying, on your phone, you need to have a YouTube channel with your highlights. So when somebody asks you that, show them. Show them. That's what I'm saying. You need to show them.
I got it.
You need to show them to provide context. Because what happens if you show that little 18-year-old kid, okay, you got a picker against Joe Montana. You deed up Jerry Rice. You deed up woo. They're gonna start. They'll look it up themselves.
That's one of the things. I mean, when we talk about his career and the time that he played, and again, even for me coming out of high school in the early '90s. And up until '97, there wasn't a lot of guys in West Virginia history that young athletes looked up to that were in the NFL. There just wasn't a lot.
100%.
I know for me, I had the honor and privilege to meet Denny Hara, who I knew was from Stonewall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I can tell you this. I remember sitting in 10th grade when he was at our high school talking to us. Hey, bro, I mean, I sat there and I was kind of. I don't know the emotion, but I remember in 10th grade knowing that here's a man sitting in front of me that's already accomplished everything in life that I only pray to do. Mm-hmm. And then, I was like, how, again, there's one man, and he's sitting right here, and he went to this school. And it bothered me, though, because I was like, man, you already did it. Everything I want to do in life, you've already done. And it was a different type of motivation. I didn't know him to hate him or anything like that. But to me, that was the real surreal moment. I was like, it's here. This is a living case that you can come from West Virginia and go places.
And the thing is, I think sometimes when you have a championship football player at the Division I level, when you have an NFL football player, sometimes we want to establish different identities. And that's cool and that's fine. And I agree that you have to move on and you don't want to be the Al Bundy syndrome, right?
Right.
But you have to revel in it. You have to revel in those accomplishments. And that's me. You got to let people know that this is what I accomplished and this is what you can accomplish. You got it. You got to. I just love the way that Deion moves because he's letting you know this is what it is. This is the journey. And this is where you can go if you're down with me, if you listen to me.
And lastly about Carl, though, but when he played, Carl played in the greats of the quarterback era. Some of the quarterbacks you competed against, they still talk about every Sunday.
All Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Kelly, Marino,
Montana, Young,
Favre,
yeah,
all of them.
I
think Favre. You played against Favre? Okay.
I mean, those are some serious reps now, and you're playing against, a different caliber of human being. So, I think your body of work. Yeah, you'd have liked to done it in the 2000s for the money, but your body of work was against some of the best out there. For sure.
Well, and again, like none of this is not something that I don't know. Like, every one of those quarterbacks that you name, I can make the case that I got a ball at my house that I picked from them. Mm-hmm. And for me, if anything, I know that I could play at that level and not just be at that level. I was at that level and above.
Yeah.
And I see kids today that I'm thinking to myself, like, you're not out of like, you don't have to give up on the dream. You need to start your dream. Some of these kids don't want to. They say something, but they don't go anywhere. They don't do anything. They don't step forward to get to it. If I want to be a great high school football player, I'm putting time in. I got to get out on the road.
I think these are the lessons. These are the things that need to be poured into. Like I said, it's not. A dream is just a dream. A dream really don't account for nothing if you're not walking in it. You know what I'm saying? You got to manifest that dream. You got to have that vision. That's true, but it's got to be some step towards it.
Don't tell me you want to go to college. Don't tell me you want to go to college. Because my next question is, what are you doing with your books?
And that's when people get frustrated.
Because you ain't doing that with your books. You ain't going.
Yeah.
You want to play ball. You want to play basketball at the next level. When do you work out?
Yeah. How many shots you putting up a day?
Yeah. Oh, I go to practice. I work hard in practice. That's all you do?
And it's like these are time-tested methods of being a top performer. But it seems like, and I don't know if we're just I know we're all guilty of, we become old heads, but it's like when you talk to the youth today, it's kind of like old hat to them. It's not cool to be that guy that works hard, that sells out.
Right.
I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard, or I only want to specialize on one side of the ball, or some of the things that are taught today, and some of the mentalities that are embraced and move forward with. I just don't think.
I think it's
the right mentalities. I don't think anybody should be looking to specialize in high school. That's just my personal opinion.
I think what, to me, just my analysis, I think what we do have kids who work out, who work hard, who do the training and stuff. But I think to you guys' point, I think that it's, from what I've seen in my 8 years of coaching, it's the competitiveness in practice that I saw that's missing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I seen those kids who work out. They work hard. They come in camp in shape. You ain't got to worry about them.
Right.
But they're not necessarily competitive because, like, growing up in the area that we grew up in, everything. As soon as you step out the house, what shoes you got on? Yeah. Or we got playing basketball. Are we going to race? Or we going who throw the rock the farthest? And everything was competitive.
And iron has sharpened iron from day one.
Yeah.
And it always will.
And it always will. Mm-hmm. And a prime example, when Randy Moss transferred into Florida State, and we got on the practice field, we had two cornerbacks compete. Every time Randy was up to do a rep, we had two guys nearly fighting, and Melvin Cunningham and Jason Grayson, our two star, because they both
remember those names.
They wanted to cover him every rep in practice because they knew if I can cover this dude, come Saturday, I'm gonna be good.
I did the same
And
thing.
they didn't avoid him, and Randy, and
Randy's probably better for it too.
And Randy wanted,
Yeah.
he wanted to smoke. Anybody and and our practices were we didn't beat each other's head in all day every day, but there was always several periods where we went good on good, whether it was an individual position practice, one-on-one pass rush, whether it be 7-on-7. But when you're going good against good and you're going all out, the team gets better.
Man, any team that I played on that was good practices were hell. It was hell in practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to wrap it up. But I'm gonna say this to your point about Randy wanting to go, or those DBs wanting to go against Randy.
Yeah,
I did the same thing. And again, I'm making this case only because it is systematical of how it really works. Anthony Carter came from the USFL to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Anybody and everybody knew who Anthony Carter was. All right. Every time he walked up for one-on-ones, no, get out of the way. That's me. I gotta get him. I gotta get him. Because if I get him, the work he's gonna put on me all day long, every day, by the time I get to Sunday, I ain't worried about nobody else. He's as good as anybody that I played against. He has as much to do with my career being as good as it was. And because you may not understand who Anthony Carter is versus maybe Jerry Rice and some of those kind of guys. This dude was the guy. And we ended up having him, and I'm checking him. I already know. When I get to Sunday, that guy that I've been with all week, you're not better than him. That makes a difference. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been a good conversation today, but we're going to have to get up out of here. Again, this is Carl Lee. Let's talk, and we'll be back again next week.
The opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of WVRC Media, its management, employees, or sponsors. Contact Carl Lee on email, letstalkcarllee@gmail.com, or text 409-422-7539.